Today's episode of The City Square is brought to you by our sponsor, North Star. Thank you for your commitment to illuminating pathways and eliminating barriers to entrepreneurship in Orange County. Your dedication to enhancing lives and fostering supportive networks is truly commendable. We are deeply grateful for your support. Hello and welcome to the ACC-OC's The City Square, the show that brings us together to discuss smart policy solutions to improve the quality of life for all of Orange County. I am your host, Stephanie Klopfenstein, and today we are on the road again. We are actually on site here at OCTA headquarters, and I have a very special guest to introduce, the CEO of the Orange County Transportation Authority, Darrell Johnson.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. I actually sort of feel like I'm at home here since I happen to sit on the board of directors. So I think I was just in this room, yesterday?
Just yesterday. And maybe again on Monday.
Yes, I think I'll be here quite a bit next week, actually. So it's such a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for taking the time. I know that we're going to talk about all things transportation today, and there is a lot to talk about. But obviously, we know that the mission of OCTA is delivering and developing transportation solutions also for the quality of Orange County and enhancing that quality of life here in Orange County. But before we get into that, I want to talk a little bit about you. I know that we have had an opportunity to sit down and talk about how you got here, right? How you got to the OCTA and what your careers looked like. And so I'd love for you to share a little bit about that and what it's like being CEO of OCTA.
Well, thanks. I got into transportation as a college intern. I went to school at UC Riverside. I was an intern with the Riverside County Transportation Commission, and my interest was sparked at that point, and I decided that's the only thing I wanted to do. So from there, I went to work for Amtrak in Washington, D.C. for about a year. Then I worked for Amtrak in Los Angeles and in the Bay Area. And along the lines, I ran into the Orange County Transportation Authority. And that was one of those places I thought I could see myself there. And came here in 2003, worked on the Measure M sales tax in 2006, and had some different opportunities, and became the CEO in 2013, so about 11 years.
Wow.
And a lot of cool things. And I absolutely love working on transportation here. And we've got a great county. It's very dense. A lot of people don't think about the density, but the job is never done. And that's what's kind of the exciting part about it.
It's true. And you can definitely see that. I notice from being here as often as I am, the passion. I can tell how much you love your job. And that goes for, I think, a lot of the employees here and the staff here at OCTA. You guys truly do love transportation, and it shows. And I think for people living in Orange County, they see OCTA every day, right? The logo's there on our buses. And we definitely know when we transfer over from LA into Orange County, we can see it in our freeways. But can you tell us a little bit more for those that maybe aren't familiar with OCTA here in the county? Share a little bit about your mission and goals here at OCTA.
Absolutely. So, California is a big place,
yes.
And there's 58 counties in California. 3 of them are structured from a transportation standpoint, like Orange County, us, Los Angeles, and Santa Clara in the Bay Area. By that, I mean we get to do everything. So you as a board member at OCTA, you're a board member of the Transit District, the Local Transportation Commission. So that means we get to sort of look at everything holistically. So
true.
You mentioned the buses. That's obviously our biggest sort of advertisement, if you will,
right,
to the public, the bus system. But we plan and work on the freeways, fund freeway improvements, local streets and roads, signal synchronization, commuter rail. We're building light rail or streetcar in Santa Ana and Garden Grove, freeway service patrol, active transportation, bicycle, pedestrian paths. We do water quality programs. We have an open space protection program. I've probably forgotten a few things, but that gives you a sense of everything that we're working on.
It's pretty a massive scope of projects
pretty
at all
large.
Times. Yes, it is, most definitely. Well, speaking of projects and future initiatives, are there any specific projects you're excited about? And I'll tell you, just hold off on the 405 express lanes because I want to get to that next. But any other projects, I can think of a few, and I'm sure you have a lot to talk about.
Well, a couple of things for our viewers in South Orange County. The I-5 project between the 73 and El Toro is going to wrap up late this year, early next year. So first, let me thank all of the residents and the drivers and traveling public for putting up with construction. We know construction's never a good neighbor, but that's a promise we made in Measure M2. The voters approved it. And so if you're a daily driver there, you're starting to see ramps open and lanes reconfigured. So hopefully by the end of the calendar year, the commute will be a little bit smoother. So we're excited about that. We're about halfway done on an improvement on State Route 55 between the 405 and the 55. Great partnership with us and Caltrans, state of California. Some great discretionary dollars from the state came in on that. And then sometime in the fourth quarter of this calendar year, we're going to break ground on an improvement on the 91 freeway between the 55 and the 57.
That'll be great.
So a lot of things going on.
A lot of freeway projects, absolutely. Well, going back to the 405 express lanes, obviously ACC-OC gave you the Golden Hub of Innovation Award for that project. So congratulations again on that. That was a big night and definitely well-deserved. Can you elaborate a little bit just on the significance of that award, but also share more about that project?
Well, any award is something you want to say thank you to, but that one, I think this idea of innovation was really important and being recognized by our local community and local community leaders for innovation, because that project was complex, it was difficult, it has a different future, in which I'll talk about in a moment, and it was expensive. And Measure M1 from 91 to 2011 worked on every freeway in Orange County, except the 405, because it was too complex and too expensive. So we knew we had to do something under Measure M2. But when you are faced with 18 new bridges or replaced bridges, a $2.2 billion price tag, you really have to think through that process. Very dense part of the county, the busiest section of freeway on the north end anywhere in the United States in terms of daily traffic. Wow. So we kind of figured we had to do it one time and we had to do it right. And the one way to do that right was to look at how do we improve the ons and off ramps? How do we improve the bridges that serve the local cities, bike lanes, pedestrian access, and then also add safety features to the project. So every lane is a standard width. No one likes to be in narrow lanes on a freeway, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
And then adding general purpose or free capacity, but also introducing the idea of express lanes and where people have a choice. And I think that is really important, Stephanie, this idea of choice.
Agreed.
You don't have to use the express lanes if you don't want to, but when you need to get to that soccer game for your kids or pick up your child from daycare or get to that important business meeting, you're given an option to be able to improve your trip. And we're very excited about that. $2.2 billion. 95% of that was paid locally.
That's amazing.
We used a method of construction called design build, which allowed us to shorten construction between 1 and 2 years. And project was on schedule, on budget, and opened last December. And it's meeting all of its performance expectations for not only the express toll lanes, but for the regular lanes as well. So we could talk about it all day. It's a great project.
I know, it really is. And I think you've seen some recognition worldwide, people interested not just here locally, but from all over the globe, really, right? Interested in what we're doing here locally?
Absolutely. You know, we've owned the 91 express lanes since 2003, and we could cover tours all over from the world on that. And the reason I mentioned the 91 express lanes, it was the first all-electronic toll system anywhere in the U.S. And now that's been emulated. So for a while, we had the oldest electronic toll system in the U.S., which is the 91 express lanes. And for about 9 months, we had the newest, which was the 405.
Yeah.
Now the I-10 express lanes in San Bernardino County have opened, which sort of emulate that. But people are looking at this idea of like, if you can do this in Southern California and have this opportunity where car has traditionally been king, although I think that's changing a bit, where how can you give people the option and the choice and have that idea that you can go the speed limit at rush hour if you choose to.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
So a lot of interest around the world on that and a lot of recognition. And even our construction company, there were international partners in building the project.
That's wonderful to see that exposure for OCTA. And I think the residents living here, utilizing it, the feedback's been great, right? The participation and the desire for it.
I think it's been positive. You know, it's when you introduce something new, people are scared of change. They're afraid of change. They're worried about how it's going to work for them. Predecessors of the OCTA board before your time here were very focused on this idea we need to have carpool discounts. So 3 ride free, and we have a transition for 2+ carpoolers. So because we had a carpool lane there, we want to make sure people could use that. But I think as people get more acknowledgement and understanding of how to use it, what we're hearing is a lot more interest about, well, why didn't we go a little further? Could we have went north? Could we have went south? Can I get access to it? So there's a lot more interest in that than maybe we anticipated even when we were planning the project.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the broader impact of transportation on the workforce and economic development. How do you see all of that playing out? And what is your sort of breakdown how those areas are affected by transportation?
Well, I think first and foremost, transportation is really about people. And we have to make people have a better quality of life. So you asked me about how I got to start in my career. And I was really interested in this idea that we could help people every day. You know, maybe as a naive college student, I thought transportation is going to help everybody. That's just the answer. You know, 35 years later, I know someone has to work on education. Somebody has to work on air quality. Somebody else has to work on water quality. But at the end of the day, transportation really is this convener of all of those things.
It does. It binds us all together.
It binds us all together. So if we can get people to their job easier, to school easier, less stress to drop their kids off at daycare, whatever the case may be, and if we can do transportation projects that have co-benefits that can make the air cleaner, make the water cleaner, less pollutants, those things come together. And if we can sort of think about not just the transportation, mobility, congestion relief, which are absolutely critical, and we have to do projects for that, but if we can work with our partners, cities, resource agencies, and other stakeholders to make that project even better, and transportation projects create jobs. We know they create jobs.
Yeah.
And if We can create jobs while we're building it. And if we have a good transportation system, then our economic activity within our county, within our region, can thrive as well.
Less stress, more jobs, clean environment, all those things sound
all
really...
tied together. All tied together.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I think that sort of takes us into transportation and that community connection. And we definitely see that here at OCTA. I can think of just our inclusiveness, especially being something that we're focusing on, as well as the Youth Ride Free program. And I know you can mention that in a second, but what about those social connections, and how does transportation projects and initiatives impact those areas?
Well, you mentioned Youth Ride Free. I think that's a perfect opportunity. We have the bus system, and we run lots of bus service.
Yeah.
We also know that transportation can sometimes be a barrier to education. People that can't afford a car or can't afford parking or sharing a car with multiple people in a family. So a few years ago, we had this idea of what if we could start with the community colleges? What if we could work with community colleges so all community college students can ride OC Bus for free? So
I think it's so great.
We're so excited. There's 9 community colleges in Orange County, which is great anyway, that we have 9 in our county.
Very much so, yeah.
So there's something for everyone. And we started with Santa Ana College. Now we've expanded it to all 9. So if you're a student at any of those colleges with your student ID, you can ride OC Bus anywhere. Super successful, lots of ridership, measured in millions. Our ridership on that program is incredible. Is very, very good. So then we came up with the idea, well, what if we could push that down one step further and have high school and middle school students ride? So we call that the Youth Ride Free program. Mm-hmm. And the board adopted it in end of 21 as a pilot, very successful. Then we made it permanent, got some help from the legislature on redirecting some existing state funds. So I think a good policy conversation. It wasn't new money. It was like, there's some other money maybe not being used effectively as it could. How can we redirect it?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And all of that to be said, numbers are important, measurement's important. Prior to those programs, about 5% of our ridership was youth or college students. Now it's closing in on 15%, so it's nearly tripled.
That's amazing.
And if we can teach people...
That shows there's a need.
There's a need, and if people can learn how to use the transit system at a younger age, then they can adopt and understand that. So really exciting about that. We see a lot more growth in that area going forward.
That's amazing. And the youth can really be sort of an ambassador then to take that back to their parents too and say, hey, let's all do this together. So it's really, I think it really shows how we're making those connections into the community. And I know it's also being inclusive. We're looking at our seniors too, and our the disability community and so forth, and how we're working with them as well.
Absolutely. Orange County is we have an aging population. Mm-hmm. In fact, the population that was 60 or older from the 2010 census to the 2020 census increased significantly.
Yeah, it has.
And just as you age doesn't mean you're always going to have mobility challenges, but we know that an aging population is going to have different needs. Mm-hmm. So we're doing 3 things, I would say, at OCT. One is if you're a senior, you get a bus discount. Measure M2, passed by the voters, provides a senior discount on that. If you do have mobility challenges, either physical or cognitive, we have the OC Access, which is a paratransit service. Mm-hmm. That is something that can be used as well. And then we make dollars available to every city in Orange County for a senior mobility program. And we give the flexibility to each individual city how they want to do that. Might be taxi cab vouchers, might be local shuttles. But this idea that seniors can ride the bus at a very deep discount. If they need extra help and they qualify for paratransit, OC Access, they can do that. And then each individual city can do a customized program under our senior mobility grants. So lots of opportunities. Lots
of opportunities. That's amazing. And I think those opportunities also then we see that within the city partnerships. I know in Garden Grove, we have a great partnership with OCTA and work very, connectively on active transportation. Can you talk a little bit about those current partnerships with cities that you have?
Absolutely. Well, we couldn't do anything on the street and road system and the network without the cities. And one fact for the viewers is about half of our traffic in the county is carried on the freeway system, and that is probably obvious. But the other half is carried on the local arterial system. So the city street network is really important.
It is.
So first and foremost, we have to take good care of it. So we provide what we call formula or fair share or turn back dollars to every city based upon their population, road miles, and sales tax to maintain your streets and roads.
And that is, I know as a council member, so extremely important. Infrastructure, filling those potholes, getting those roads up to, it's extremely important.
People hate potholes.
They do.
System preservation is great. And so when you look at that around the state now, after really almost 30 years of doing this under Measure M1 and Measure M2, we now have the highest pavement condition index of any county in California.
That's impressive.
Not every city is perfect by any means, but every city's working on it,
yes,
and we're getting
very
there.
True.
So that's one partnership. The other partnership is we make grants available for local cities to work on their roads. If you need a new turn lane, or you need to expand a lane, or you need to modify your intersection, or you want a signal synchronization with your neighbor, your neighboring city. Those grants are available. And then I would say in the last decade, a lot more emphasis on active transportation,
very much so.
Pedestrian and bike. I know your city in Santa Ana are working on a project Connect Each
Still
Other.
are, yes.
And still are. Lots of good work going in that space. Prior to 2010, we put very little dollars, in, relatively speaking, into active transportation. And that's more than doubled, and it's only going up from now because you see people looking for different things. They're looking for different opportunities and options.
Yeah, and we know what active transportation does for our local city and sort of how it puts a spotlight on our individual cities. And I think some of the development that we've seen and the economic growth we've had in Garden Grove can be directly tied to some of those initiatives.
I believe that. And, every city is a little bit different. You're a city that's built out. So we as OCTA need to make sure that we're providing opportunities for a city that is built out and has a built road network, or maybe other cities are still growing, they're still developing in a different way. And how do we match those up and give all the cities an opportunity to find transportation dollars to invest?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if you can believe it, we've already gone over current projects, the 405 express lanes, supporting the local economy, inclusive transportation, and community connections. We did that rather quickly.
That's pretty quick.
That was quite a bit, but it obviously shows, and you're a wealth of knowledge, and you know so much about OCTA. This is your bread and butter. This is your livelihood. You love this so much, and it's obvious that you're so passionate about it. Is there anything else before we close that you want, a message that you'd like to send to the residents of Orange County?
If I could, Stephanie, just talk a little bit about our environmental stewardship. So we know when we make investments in the transportation system, there can be environmental impacts. So we, as part of Measure M2, approved by the voters, we entered into a program by where we have permanently protected more than 1,300 acres of open space in really in exchange for improving the freeway system. So we now have 1,300 acres of open space that have biological value, that are protected forever. This isn't no development, protected forever. We're making investments into an endowment so they can be maintained and managed forever. We've also restored 300 acres of habitat that had non-native grasses and weeds and things choking out the environment. So we're very proud of that. We also make water quality grants available to local cities to take transportation-related runoff. So think about when it rains or you have sprinklers. Right. We have 42 miles of coastline in Orange County. We need to protect that. So stopping it before it gets to the coast. And then finally, we talked about the bus system a little bit. We have a state requirement by 2041 to have all of our buses zero emission.
Right.
We've been piloting both battery electric plug-ins and hydrogen fuel cell electric. We're not exactly sure which one we're going to choose. My point on that is we're going to have the cleanest buses that we can possibly have for the residents of Orange County. It's good for the environment. It's good for the riders. And over time, we think that has financial benefit to the operations as well.
That's amazing. I think it's important to know what OCTA is doing for the environment and just to keep our air and our water and just that quality of life. That open space is very precious to us here in Orange County. And I've been able to attend a few of the hikes that you have.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It is really amazing. I enjoy that. I love being outside and hiking, and to be able to know that this is protected land and that you're fostering it and trying to make it better for the residents of Orange County, I think is a message that I hope more people can learn about.
Well, and I think that back to your very first question is, what are we doing? And this idea is we can do things that benefit multiple activities. So it's a transportation project, but if we can do it and also clean up the air a bit, clean up the water a bit, and make people's life better, at the end of the day, it's about people.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It all comes back to people and those connections. Well, this has been incredible, and I just want to thank you so much for your time today and sharing so much knowledge and just engaging with me and with everyone here in Orange County about OCTA. If people want to learn more about any of these initiatives and projects, please let them know where they can go to find that information.
We can always go to our website, www.octa.net. There's a projects and programs area. One of the things I'm very proud on the website is if you have a request about a project, you can go to that section. You're going to see a real phone number with a picture of a real person with a real email address that you can contact. You can also sign up for our construction alerts. You can follow us on social media.
You have a very robust social media,
yes,
honestly.
Well, people get their information a different way nowadays, right? So we want to make sure that we're not just telling people how to get their information, we're responding to where they like to get their information. So follow us on Instagram, check out the website, and again, there's real people behind those things you click on.
Yeah, and that's wonderful to hear. So make sure you head to their website and check out their social media. You'll be able to find information about all the things that we discussed today. And if you'd like to take one of those hikes up into those protected areas, they're there for you. Darrell, thank you so very much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And we're going to take a quick break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Chris Murray and the Policy Pulse update right here on the City Square. We'll see you soon. Welcome back to the City Square. I'm your host, Stephanie Kloppenstein, and with me we have Darrell Johnson, CEO of the Orange County Transportation Authority, and joining us now is Chris Murray, our Executive Director of ACC-OC. Chris, what do you have today on the Policy Pulse?
Well, I don't even know where to start because there's so much happening at ACC-OC right now, and I want to thank you both. I want to open by thanking you both for your leadership on our board. You are our board president right now this year, actually, your second year as our board president, and your leadership's been extraordinary. And Darrell is an affiliate board member in OCTA's continued investment and support of our organization and cities countywide. So it makes such an impact. I think I'll start today by talking about the wrap up of the legislature. They've just concluded. It's the end of a 2-year session. There were over 5,000 bills introduced over that session. About half of those are going to the governor's desk. So we're keeping our eye on a lot of moving pieces, but I want to highlight a few things that are important to our legislative platform and the items that we're tracking. I'll start with Proposition 47 reform because that is significant to our cities, the rise in retail theft. We're seeing it across our cities. We're seeing it in our transit systems. Proposition 47, which is just a little over 10 years old now, was adopted as the Safe Neighborhood and Schools Act of 2014. But in fact, what it did was reduce a number of felonies to misdemeanors, including grand theft. And so we've just seen the statewide rise in retail theft, specifically at the municipal level. So the governor has already signed 10 reform measures, and 11th is on his desk and is expected to be signed by the governor to make some significant improvements and reforms that are needed. ACC-OC supported 5 of those in particular, and they're all about addressing these impacts of retail theft in cities statewide. ACC-OC is also supporting Proposition 36. Our board unanimously supported that measure, which is on the ballot in November, and that is also a comprehensive approach, again, to provide some additional support to individuals and cities who are victims of crime.
It's needed. That's great.
It really is. Yeah. And so we'll watch closely as a lot of these bills move forward. There's a number in the transportation realm and housing realm that we are concerned about that are going to his desk, to the Governor Newsom's desk. And so we'll be monitoring that and reporting out to the cities. And all of our legislative tracking is available on our website at accoc.org. Then also, sober living has been a rising issue for a lot of our cities. One, it's utilizing a lot of our housing stock when we have an ongoing housing crisis, but there are a lot of for-profit unlicensed operators out there that are really creating hazardous situations for both the patients of these facilities as well as the neighborhoods where they're operating, the residential neighborhoods. So I want to acknowledge that our Orange County delegation, our state delegation, in a bipartisan capacity has really worked to address this issue in a comprehensive capacity. There were 5 measures introduced by our delegation this year. 2 are making it to the governor's desk, so I'd like to acknowledge Assemblywoman Davies. Her bill, AB 2081, will require operators of licensed facilities to include disclosure on their website if they are disciplined by the state or other enforcement actions are taken, so that when individuals go to their website, they're notified. And we've had a number of situations where clients come out of these places and didn't know that the proper training, the proper health care, the proper even diet and counseling was not going to be provided. And so when these folks are, when these unlicensed, it's the unlicensed operators, they will have to disclose that on their website so that people have fair warning before they
greater transparency.
Just greater transparency.
So needed.
Exactly. And it was hard to get that bill through. So it's crazy how hard it is to get some of these measures through. And then Assemblyman Valencia authored AB 2574, and this would exempt unlicensed homes for sober living, mental health recovery, from operating in a residential use of property when there is ample evidence that they have licensed facilities in other areas. And so it's about making sure that there is some consolidation, and also that licensed facilities it's really disclosure, letting people know that this is part of a larger network. And so that one also was approved by the legislature and is going to the governor's office, a governor's desk for signature. Then there were several measures that we supported by Assemblywoman Dixon and Senators Umberg and Newman that would have given greater local control for licensure of these facilities, and also to enforce standards of care and close some loopholes that currently exist for licensed and unlicensed facilities. And unfortunately, those measures didn't proceed, but there is a lot of growing support to see those measures reintroduced.
I hope they can be. That's good.
As you know, the California State Sober Living and Recovery Home Task Force has been growing. It started in Mission Viejo. It grew Orange County wide, and now it is a statewide task force, and it's about to have full nonprofit status as a 501c3. They have come to ACC-OC and asked us to provide administrative and operational oversight, and so that's going to be a new service offering that we're providing to cities. We're in the process of doing that transition and providing that oversight. And I just want to emphasize that for CASLAR, their mission is not focused solely on the neighborhood impacts of these facilities, but making sure standards of care are in place for those who are most vulnerable residents in the state who are seeking mental health support or legitimate recovery from drug and alcohol addiction, to make sure that they're properly cared for. And
that's a must.
I mean,
it is.
It really should. Standards of care should be a top priority for absolutely everybody, and that's the focus of the task force.
I'm really proud of ACC-OC for being a part of this. It's needed work.
I agree, and it's definitely an impact for every city statewide now, especially with the passage of Prop 1, where there's billions of dollars that will go into creating these facilities in residential neighborhoods statewide. And so CASLAR is the acronym for the state task force, is really growing in its support with cities and counties statewide.
And I believe they have a website, soberlivingtaskforce.com.
Correct.
So if residents or people have just curiosity or would like a deeper framework of what's going on,
Thank
obviously
you.
they
Yes.
can reach out through ACC-OC, but they could also check that website
Exactly.
as well.
And there's a lot of testimonial of individuals who've come out of those facilities harmed by being in some of these unlicensed facilities.
true.
So that human impact is well documented on the website too, and I hope people will take them a moment to check it out. We want to make sure people are safe. I'll move on and close with a really positive update on our better learning opportunities that we're doing with ACC-OC. And again, you both are such a huge part of that. But we started this program about a year ago, just starting to do infrastructure tours where we brought officials to come see some facilities and projects in person, but realized there was this growing need of individuals when you're elected to a public office, your background doesn't necessarily cover the host of everything from sewers to public safety and everything in between.
We can't be experts in everything.
You can't be subject matter experts. So what we're doing with Better Learning Opportunities is we've expanded it to all the host of municipal issues that ACC-OC addresses on behalf of our members. And so we bring officials to the project sites, to the industry experts, so they can learn firsthand and really make informed decisions on behalf of their communities. So we've done a number of these this year with huge success. They're growing momentum, and we're super excited. Most recently, we just did one at John Wayne Airport. We learned about their capital investment program. Their director, new airport director, Charlene Reynolds, came and addressed us and brought her key leadership staff and really walked us through a lot of the great work that they're doing. In addition to, very exciting, the EV toll program, which John Wayne will be one of the first sites, which is the air taxi, a very elaborate future drone that will be taking us through the air to other parts of the region. And it's expected to be operational by the 28 Olympics.
I was wondering if maybe there was a time frame around that.
Yes, so it's still planned to be operational by that time. So we heard from the manufacturer, Joby, and we heard from some of the operators and then the airport staff. NASA's involved and FAA's involved in certifying this program. It's going to be pretty incredible.
Well, I think, Chris, if I could, the opportunity for people to learn, new elected officials, about these unique things. So from OCTA's perspective, we're happy to host, whether it's the Express Lanes program, construction projects, our streetcar project, bus facilities, city streets and roads. So just let us know. We're happy to engage.
Absolutely. And we definitely have you on our sites on that, because all the above. We want all the above. And I would love to also promote and coordinate with you on one of the hikes and or
Happy
bike
to do that
rides
as well.
that you guys
We'll
host.
do both of those.
To really emphasize for the communities your environmental stewardship. It's profound and it's always been there, but people may not know about it. And then I just want to share some of the upcoming ones we have. The Dana Point Harbor Revitalization Project Tour is October 10th. In addition to the Dana Point Harbor Tour, we are also doing an affordable housing tour and briefing with National Corps, a songs decommissioning tour hosted by Southern California Edison on October 23rd, a combating veteran homelessness with Jamboree Housing on November 7th, and then this fall we're also scheduling an introduction and orientation with Darren Kettle, your colleague from Metrolink, CEO of Metrolink. So information on that is forthcoming. And next week we have our big DC fly-in. It's sold out this year. We have over 30 officials coming.
That's amazing.
From Orange County, and we're meeting with everyone from the White House to congressional leadership, our own delegation, and members of many agencies. So it's
That's an impactful
really
trip. It's a lot of
robust
fun.
program. Again, ACC-OC is not just focused on what's happening state, but regional and federal as well. We represent Orange County at all levels of government. So that's my wrap up. I know it's a lot. We've had an exciting
busy times.
year.
Yes.
A lot going on. I hope everyone will stay engaged and go to our website for more information. And I just want to close by thanking United Way as our sponsor of the Policy Pulse today and this podcast.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Chris. I think that's all the time we have for today. Darrell, I want to thank you for hosting us here at OCTA and for such an engaging conversation. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And before we wrap up, I wanted to remind everyone, if you're interested in learning more about OCTA, please visit their website or social media channels to stay updated and engaged in their upcoming events and projects. Thank you again so much for having us today. Thank you, Chris, for your Policy Pulse update. And if you're interested in the City Square, you can reach out to us and subscribe to our podcast at our ACC-OC.org website. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time on the City Square.